Have you had the experience while manifesting, while really coming into the understanding that you are source, which obviously equates to knowing that you are always in the eternal now, which is not the same as the present moment, but the eternal now, the true all there is, or we could say the absolute, knowing yourself as awareness, I am. How sometimes it feels like there's a pause before shifts occur. Have you had that experience where it feels like you're stepping into this new identity? You're accepting that you are source. You've made a conscious decision over who you are and what you want. So let's say you're manifesting a specific person and you feel like you have been in the identity of being in that relationship. Yet it seems like it's still silence in reality before we see any tangible change or proof. Have you felt like that? Have you felt like there is silence before things happen? Well, then you're going to want to stick around for this video today. Hello, my fellow flawless, limitless, sexy, sassy, saucy HBICs. How are you on this lovely morning, afternoon, or evening? How are you all? I hope you're all doing fabulous. I hope you're all choosing to be the versions of yourself that have exactly what you want. I hope that's what you're doing. I have a visitor sitting directly behind me, currently trying to push me off the couch, but regardless, I got a really good question today. And the question is, Kim, can you please talk about those silent moments before shifts occur and how to explain to the logical mind that manifestation isn't logical? And I thought that was a really good question because, number one, it's not the first time I've been asked. You know, we have content everywhere by all sorts of different people talking about their experiences and their perceptions and opinions and ideas about conscious manifestation. And I do think that the idea that, let's say reality becoming the new reality, right? The old reality leaving, the new reality coming in, and how sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening, but you're standing in that identity. And we want to make sense of why that might be. Now, I'm going to say, because I have to, that your source, you are source. You are all there is. And what you think and believe is the law over your reality. So put aside the law of assumption and call it the law of you and the law of what you believe. And reality will be that. So if you believe that there is silence between shifts, then that is what you will experience. Now, I know who the hell wants to have to experience that on purpose. I get it. I know it probably doesn't feel like you're purposely choosing that there must be silence between the shifts. I'm aware of that. Because the question comes up a lot, I am under the assumption that other people have experienced it, where it feels like there's a delay or a lag in reality. My real opinion, my perception, my belief that there isn't really a lag. I don't believe that there are deliberate silences between shifts. I believe people may have had experiences that look that way, but I do not believe that they are a must. You have to bear in mind that knowing who you really are as source, you are also experiencing identities and ego. And I believe that on this planet, in this 3D world of ours, a lot of us have been conditioned, clearly with linear time, but we've been conditioned with the inherent need to explain away everything. Everything must make sense for us. It has to make sense so we can feel comfortable to trust and believe what we're hearing, right? Or what we're watching on YouTube. So, talking about consciousness We need it to make sense to us so we can feel secure and safe, to trust this shit so that we can go all in, right? Really step into the acceptance of who you are. But as you said, this isn't logical. Why do you think there are so many different concessions on how this works? It's not that each different concession is wrong. It's just we are humans who are also just happen to be source, but still experience the human part of us. And I'm going to call it the identity and ego, which helps us to experience reality through this version of ourselves or just through the being itself, right? Me being Kimberly, you being your real name. So you might be having the experience of what feels like there is silence. Maybe you're not experiencing fruits of your labor, and like tying into the video I put up yesterday, how you perceive, therefore narrate your reality as is your individual truth. So therefore your individual experience. You have the free will to believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. I don't necessarily believe that there are actual pauses, right? The universe isn't taking a coffee break. God isn't taking the coffee break. And I don't think that there must be pauses between shifts in order to get what we want. But because we move through, I was going to say egos, identities, our perception of reality moves with the identity. We don't stop being source. We don't stop being God. We don't begin to lack things because we're filtering through identity, right? We didn't suddenly lose part of us. Things aren't necessarily being added to us, right? And why is that? I'm sure we all know at this point, right? Because as source and because we are in the eternal now, true awareness, there's nothing necessarily to be done, more to do, or more to wait for. Because of our conditioning, that we want to make logical sense over everything for our comfort. And if you notice, as we've talked about the topic of different techniques before, techniques are what? They help you to accept or feel comfortable to believe and trust or to know who you choose to be as source. Most of the conversations we talk about in the manifestation community, and this is all of them, right? Law of attraction, law of assumption, the law of one, or the raw teachings, the law of being, the law of whatever. We're talking law of Kimberly right now. Because in this community, we are all source experiencing reality through our human meat sacks. And because we have the experience of ego, we lean in the direction of, again, needing things to make sense for our comfort, to soothe the ego, or we could say, or to soothe our monkey mind. The beauty of all of this is things don't have to make sense. Things don't have to be logical for you to get your outcomes, for you to get your desires. So, as you so politely asked this question, and you were very polite, my friend, can you see that perception that there is a pause? If you look really through that perception, what identity is asking that question? Now, again, I'm not trying to say that, well, if you're asking that question, you are clearly separated from source. No, that's not what it means. It means you're perceiving reality through the perception of there seems to be pauses before the shifts occur, pauses, silent moments before we see evidence. Where my perception is, if I'm knowingly accepting that I am source, therefore knowingly accepting that I am who I say I am, which, just to keep it simple, I'm going to say, the version of myself. And because we talk about specific person so much, so the version of myself in a loving, fulfilling, committed relationship, that's who I am. And if through that filter, through that identity, I'm looking out at reality, if there is the perception of like silence, crickets, nothing, sitting in front of me, like my SB not sitting next to me, then that must be what is meant to happen, what is supposed to happen for the ego, or we could say our human self, to accept as true of reality. Now, I know that's a lot of words. I think that because ego is so driven to lean in needing things to make sense, needing things to be logical, so it can feel safe to trust, let's say, our new knowing of who we are. Because it's only ever ego that's doubting, fearing, questioning. Now, that's not to mean that that's no longer God. No, it just means it's that more rational, logical part of us. I believe we experience linear time, or I could say, I believe we experience these events that may lead to the desire. And again, that's not to say that there's always going to be a plethora of events that have to take place before you can have your desire. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that things tend to happen and present themselves in reality based off of what you can accept as true, believable, what makes sense to that ego part of you. And that's not good and that's not bad. So if there's a part of you that thinks that there are pauses or lags before you actually see evidence of your desire, then I challenge you to say, why do I think there's lags? You see, in so many of us, especially if you're newer to the community, you instantly want to say, well, because I don't see my fucking manifestation, Kim. Duh, it's not here. I don't see it. And my instinct is say, okay, well, that's who you are. That's who you are. But I know for some of you, because I've seen it in the comments, you automatically think or hear, okay, so it's my fucking fault now. It's my fault. This manifestation stuff always puts people back in that victim place. You're victim shaming. No matter what happens, no matter what ideas get talked about in the manifestation community, manifestation always wins. In other words, there's always a response to put it back on the person manifesting. And, again, I have empathy for those that are still in that mindset. But there's only so many ways to sugarcoat the fact that whatever you are believing to be true, accepting is real for you is what you're fucking experiencing. Period. That's how brilliantly fast we can move through identities. You're infinite. Infinite. There are infinite points in consciousness or awareness for you to experience. It all exists now. The you having your whatever you didn't say what you're manifesting. I'm just going to keep with this specific person. If you're manifesting a specific person, only you can fully accept that you are that now. And from there, look at reality and assume whatever you're viewing is somehow, some way proof that you are that now. And I don't mean logical proof, but for the more logical minded, that sometimes just not easy to accept. Some of us are just not going to open ourselves up to the idea that that actually could be true because we don't know how something's going to be presented to us. Not one coach can tell you what reality should look like for you to feel comfortable that you are who you say you are. No one can, because this isn't logical. It's also why there's so many different perceptions and concessions on what conscious manifestation is. What I can tell you is no matter what you experience in reality, that does not determine who you are. You do. You're always in the driver's seat. Sometimes we let the ego take over, and sometimes we are standing comfortably in who you are, who you're choosing to be. We could say identity, but identity, we're always experience that as well. Most of us, when we first find conscious manifestation, have been very, very used to letting ego have full control over who we are. And again, that's not to say that we should shame ourselves for having feelings and emotions. It's remembering that no matter what you're feeling, thinking, or experiencing, that those things in of themselves don't stop you from being source. What do you think the silence is for? I'm sure maybe your answer went to, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't like it. So stop deciding that it means it's something that's prolonged. See, I don't like to view reality as, well, it's catching up. It's catching up to who I decided I am. No, I believe that the moment you are in the awareness of being who you want to be, it's instant. Instant. But there are some people that just can't accept that it's possible that things can immediately change. Some people believe that there must be events or experiences that make logical sense to them. And so that's their experience in reality. So it might look like nothing's happening because maybe whatever you're manifesting is far away from what your ego accepts as possible. So, for example, someone manifesting a specific person, maybe you haven't talked to your specific person in 6 months. Can you accept that your person can show up tomorrow easily and effortlessly and you two be back together? Or are you of the mindset that, well, there has to be the getting, connecting, having conversation together, discussing what went wrong when we were together 6 months ago, discussing what that person's been doing for the last 6 months and why didn't they come back sooner? And, now I got to wait for the conversation for my SP to say, we're back together. Do you see what I mean? What are you open to? Reality, the universe, God are not concrete stuck. Things don't always have to happen the same as they happen for your neighbor or anybody else in the comment section. It's unique and individual to you. Do you see what I mean? So maybe it's not really silences, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're not actually waiting on things to shift because maybe things shifted immediately as you decided that you are the version of yourself that has the desire. Maybe that silence is nothing more than identities, as in when we're questioning, who are we really in that moment? When you know you are something or that you have something, would you look out and ask where it is? Why it's not here yet? Probably not. Did that you questioning, why is this happening? Again, can't say this enough. That didn't mean you stopped being source. It just meant what? A different filter, different identity. So sometimes, yeah, we have to remember who we really are. because we can forget. And by forget, I simply mean the ego can forget. We can get distracted again. But that's not a bad thing either. You're here to experience. I know from my own experience that when I was really coming into, I'm going to say the full understanding of who I am, but maybe I really hadn't accepted it yet. I too would wonder, where the hell, where's the manifestation? Why isn't it happening? What is going on? And I would get so annoyed when I would hear anyone give the response, well, who are you being? If you think that there's, nothing happening, then nothing's happening. It bugged the shit out of me. But now, truly understanding who I am, I can see that a little clearer. That, that person saying that wasn't trying to offend me. That person, A, was probably reflecting the fact that I was expecting them to annoy me, but was trying to point out it is what it is. You are who you think you are. Period. Period. When you know you're already whole and complete, lacking nothing, you are a divine being, you all there is, you know you already have that which you desire. So you don't question, you don't wonder why this or that. And again, not to chastise yourself for asking the question, but who asked the question? Do you see what I mean? Who asked the question? An identity. The identity who believes there's silence before the shift, or there's silence, nothing's really changed. Identity. So come back. Come back. And by come back, I simply mean move the identity. You're still God. You didn't stop being God. You're always in fulfillment. Always. Fulfillment of what? Fulfillment of what you believe as you're perceiving. Do you see what I mean? I know that can suck. It can suck to hear that because you just want a clear-cut, logical answer. And I know you do, but they're all concessions. I could tell you, well, it's the old reality falling away as the new reality collapses in. And if that feels good, then use that. Apply that to you. But I think reality shifts instantly. And every single thing you experience is the evidence that you are who you say you are. Because you're it. You're the deciding factor if that's true or not. Because you're source. Do you see what I mean? The logical mind doesn't struggle with manifestation because it's stupid, right? It struggles because the logical mind was never meant to create reality. Awareness is. Awareness was, right? We don't create necessarily from ego, from the logical mind. Awareness does. And let's just be clear. Awareness is. Awareness, I like to think of it as an eyeball. Eyeball in the sky, looking at what it wants to experience. So awareness is like moving, a moving eyeball. I also think of this awareness eyeball as holding a flashlight and highlighting what it wants to experience. But awareness in of itself is already exactly all there is. So I also know that this can sound like fucking jargon. I know it can. There is no real lag unless you think there is. There is no pause in anything unless you think there is. So that logical mind of yours was never meant to be in control or to be religiously soothed and satisfied. No, all things were meant to point you home to knowing who you are at source. The logical mind explains what already exists. It makes sense of what already exists. It's not really originating anything because creation is finished. So, what when we ask questions like this, it's because there's a part of us that wants to feel soothed, wants to feel comforted, right? You want to be comforted that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. You're still going to get your desire. And in one sense, yeah, you are. Remember who you are. Nothing can get in the way of your desire. There doesn't have to be pauses, and they don't have to mean anything. So don't give them a meaning. Don't assume that there has to be a pause. Remember, your word, your conscious decision, your understanding and acceptance that you are God, source, whatever you perceive reality is, think of it as that's your interpretation. You're interpreting. You're interpreting reality from the perception, from the identity that you're viewing from, that filter. So when you think that there is pauses before things really change, that's your interpretation. That's how you're defining and describing reality. So let's not interpret it that way anymore. We're not waiting for things to change. You're interpreting right now. Who are you as source? There is no waiting. You are it now because you've always been it. Always. I hope that helped, and I hope it did not confuse you further. I am intending that you picked up what I was putting down. So on that note, hot seaters, I'll see you in the morning. If you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about the hot seat group. That is the channel membership where you can get your bum into the hot seat virtually, not literally, and, have a 10 to 15 minute little session together where you can ask me anything you want, including questions just like this. And we will have a little chit chat about it. So I encourage you to check that out. I really encourage you to take a look at the VIP, the Advanced Manifestors, where that's where we continue expanding our awareness, deep diving all the different perceptions and concessions on conscious manifestation, which that group gives you the access to all 3 channel memberships, all of them, including the hot seat, which is tomorrow morning. So on that note, I'll see you all tomorrow.